Hello, CIS community. It gives me great pleasure to be able to greet you in person today, so to speak, and above all, to be able to share with you just a few moments with a truly extraordinary person. Someone who will surely lift our spirits in this time of the virus COVID-19, extended campus closures, and the like. Good morning, Sarah.
Morning.
Sarah, you're one of 4 siblings to have attended CIS. And
Yeah.
you were here from reception through year 13,
Correct.
graduating in 2011. Then you went off to the Georgetown School of Foreign Service and later to Columbia Law School.
Yeah.
Moreover, you had a brilliant and fascinating career working in management consultancy and human rights law, and most recently, sustainable development, which I know will resonate very, very deeply with many of our students here in Hong Kong and in Hangzhou. And at the same time, and dare I say, as a true Hong Konger, you're also someone who loves the outdoors. And it's really that passion for being in nature, and more precisely, running in nature, that I'd like to talk with you about today.
Yeah.
On top of everything else you do, you're an exceptionally accomplished ultra runner.
I think you flatter me there.
Perhaps we could just start by describing a bit more about what the sport of ultra running is and how you became interested in it.
Sure. Well, I always did cross country when I was at school in Hong Kong. I wouldn't say I was particularly good. But when I went to university, I gained 20 pounds in the space of about 3 months. And I was happy with the weight for a while, and then decided I should sign up for a half marathon. And so I signed up, but I didn't actually end up training. And I remember the morning of, I woke up and I said to my roommate, do you think I should still go? And she said, worst case, you just walk the whole thing, you're done before lunchtime. So I went out and I did the half marathon, and it wasn't fast. And I was in so much pain the next day, I couldn't go to any of my classes. But I think after a race, you sometimes forget the pain and how difficult it was. So a few months later, I decided to do a 60K in Mongolia. That half marathon was 2013. So it's been a bit over 6 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what exactly is the Hong Kong 4 Trails Ultra Challenge?
Yeah, so there's 4 long distance trails in Hong Kong. The Maclehose 100K, Wilson 78, Hong Kong 50, and Lantau 70. And any of these trails on their own would already be extraordinary. You need to get your family or friends to drive you in between the trails because they don't exactly link up. So that event falls on Chinese New Year each year, and it's been going for 9 years now.
And Sarah, it's 15,000 meters of altitude change.
Yeah.
It's 208 kilometers long, and it took you 70 hours and 45 minutes. Is that right?
It is. Yeah.
To complete that race, which is just unbelievable. And so this most recent experience was the 3rd time you went through the training and the actual. And so the first 2 times you didn't complete it. This 3rd time you did.
Yes.
What is it that enabled you to never to give up?
You know, I would love to say that I began in 2018 thinking, you know, I'm never going to give up. I'm going to keep doing this till I succeed. But that definitely, it wasn't the way it was. So the first year I made it until I think around 80K. And then I was too slow. I got lost and I missed the first cutoff, which is 18 hours to do the Maclehose. And I was really upset for a while afterwards because I went in with the expectation that I would finish. And it took me a few months to process. And the application, so you have to get invited to compete. And to get invited, you have to write an expression of interest, which is this essay. And the application came out, and I remember thinking, you know, last year I'd written about perseverance and resilience, and those being the characteristics that I want to embody. But if I really meant that, then failing once means I should still try again. You know, if I'm still tempted by a challenge that I would do knowing that chances are I will fail, and you try anyway, And I did want to be that person, so I decided to sign up again. And so last year I tried my second time, and there's another guy who was trying his second time, and he was using the hashtag on Instagram, no third try. And so I got that in my mind as well. And so after I tried and failed the second time, so I stopped after Hong Kong Trail, which is I think like 230K in. I wasn't fast enough to make the ferry to Lantau to meet the cutoff. I was convinced that I just wouldn't do it again. And Andre, the organizer, wrote back saying, there's a spot if you want it. My reaction to that told me that I wanted to go again.
That's internal strength that you have. Where does it come from, do you feel? And is it something that ever is mixed with doubt? Or is it something that you can, or if it's mixed with doubt, can you shore it up? Can you nurture it?
So I think the doubt comes in two ways, right? There's a doubt before the event and then the doubt during the event. I have felt doubt in previous years, but this year I was confident. And I think, there was no point in which I really doubted whether I would finish. And that's new for me. And I think that's probably because I'd done the 4 in 4 challenge in December. So I'd done the 300K over 4 days. So I felt confident about covering the distance. And I'd also tried it for the past 2 years. And so my sister Claire, who crewed me for the past 3 years, knew exactly, what to do in between trails. And I knew that she would take care of me. And I know she would be able to talk me out of a bad mood if I happened to be in one. So I was just a lot more confident this year and didn't have those doubts. But usually in longer races, I do have 1 or 2 big lows and want to drop out and have to be convinced to stay.
Sarah, in another interview you gave to, I think it was to the South China Morning Post, you talked about how there are nutritional challenges and you have to have on your mind, but you also said something, if I remember correctly, like you really feel like you need to be able to make your head a nice place to be, something along those lines.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
So last year, I think as soon as I started to struggle with keeping food down, I entered into a bit of a negative spiral in my head, thinking, if I can't keep food down, then my energy is going to go down. I'm going to get really slow, and then blah, 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 blah. And it just became a really uncomfortable experience for me, because I then was just thinking about, how do I push through? And I think even going into last year's edition, I just wanted to complete it, and I was focused on that ending. Whereas this year, I had read a book beforehand called The Happy Runner. I read it twice, like 6 months apart, and the 2 authors are both ultra runners. They're both coaches, and they talk a lot about your mindset. And their main thing is you need to figure out how to make training and racing happy. Like, how do you make the journey enjoyable? And so this year, I did try to just focus in the moment. And so think about this particular section and not think about, the 230 or however many kilometers there is left to go. And I had so many moments where I just looked around and was like, this is amazing, amazing that like Hong Kong is this beautiful, amazing that I found trails so early in life, amazing that like my body is in a place where I can push through 300K twice in 2 months. And I just felt so grateful. And so I think, reading about mindset and, enjoying the journey and being in the moment really helped me focus on that in the run. And so it made me happy for most of the time. I think I cried twice. I think both of those can be traced to me not eating enough, and so my mood dipped, and I had a little cry. But then I think it was John Kelly, who's also an ultra runner. He said, like, on the side of every low is a high of equal or greater magnitude. You just need to wait it out. In terms of mentally, I thought a lot about mindset, but I guess it's such a big feat that it's at the back of my mind most days. And so that I think helps you develop how much do you want it. And I really enjoyed being outdoors. And so that's made me think a lot about, do I want to be spending 5 days a week in an office and then 2 days a week outside? And so I think it's having a bigger impact in my career than I'm understanding right now. I think it might be the catalyst for some big change that I'll do maybe later this year or sometime next year. Yeah.
Both here on Braemar Hill and in Hangzhou, our students are going to be without a chance to see each other and their teachers for a long time. We're talking about several weeks of online learning. Sometimes, all the news that we're hearing, they're hearing, sounds more like panic than caution. And it makes me think like what it might be like to be an ultra runner on a mountain, but lost.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, your experience, are there any words of advice you would give, particularly to the young people in our community?
I would say just enjoy it for what it is, when you're lost and alone and it's cold, at some point, you'll look back on that memory and you'll like treasure that gem, right? Even though it's not like your other running experiences. And so in the moment, I remember on my second night looking around and the mountains were silhouetted against the light of the city. And in that moment, I should have been exhausted and, I don't know, hungry and wanting to chat with people. But I looked around and I was just so happy. And I think you could probably adopt the same mindset to this. It's not like normal school anymore. You're not with your friends and you're not with your teachers, but you have an amazing opportunity to think about how you want to structure your day or live your life with this different setup. And how can you enjoy this for what it is? So that's what I would try to do if I was in that position.
Somewhere I read about the bell jar and the fig tree.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing about having so many passions, not being able to decide. Is that the scene where if you don't decide, in some sense, you can let them all wither away?
Options just wither away, yeah.
That's right, yeah.
So I think about that a lot, and I think like CIS really sets you up to be able to do whatever, like anything. I still feel so overwhelmed by the options, and I've asked a lot of my friends how they thought about what to do. One of them, when she left McKinsey, she literally printed out a list of industries and just went through one by one thinking, can I work in this industry? And if I were to do that, it wouldn't work because I would be too optimistic and I'd be like, oh, maybe, and then just end up with, no changes to the list. Another one of my friends, he thought about like, what must he have in his life? So come up with a set of criteria and then use that to evaluate all the options that come. But even then, my criteria is so broad. I probably want to be back in Southeast Asia. I want a sense of adventure in my life and in my career. I want responsibility. And if I'm being honest with my ego, like I want to be associated with whatever impact I'm having. And there's probably a bunch more that I just haven't realized yet. And I think that might be a helpful way to think about which option to pick. But what I'm beginning to realize is, like, again, just goes back to being in the moment, like figure out what I am most excited about to do this year.
You once said that if you were asked this question actually by our alumni office, if you could have a conversation with anybody living or passed away, with whom would it be? And I think you answered Nelson Mandela, the great South African civil rights activist and political leader. What question would you ask him?
Oh, man. I think I was reading his biography at the time, and I had just left a future in law, which I thought I wanted for over a decade. And so I was very lost in terms of what cause should I devote my mind to? Like, what do you work for? And how do you decide when there's so many things you could be doing? So I think I'd probably ask him something about that, you know, not something generic like how did you find your passion, but maybe how did you think about what is the most meaningful way to spend your time, and then how do you contribute in a meaningful way, and how do you think about that? So I just wanted, yeah, I think I would have then and still would have found that a useful conversation for me.
Thank you, Sarah. That's great food for thought for us all, I think. It's been a real pleasure and genuine honor to have these few moments with you, and above all, to be able to share them with the rest of the CIS community. It's your gifts of inspiration and strength and
Oh my gosh.
are treasures for us, and particularly in this time. We really are grateful. And thank you very much to the CIS community, and best wishes to everyone.